Well, folks, it seems our favorite tweeter-in-chief is at it again. That's right, Donald Trump, back in the Oval Office for his second term, is reviving his greatest hits. And by greatest hits, I mean his insatiable appetite for territorial expansion. It's like he's got a new season of his reality show, and this time, the stakes are global. Remember those heady pre-pandemic days when he wanted to buy Greenland? It was the talk of the town, a geopolitical move that left everyone scratching their heads. Well, buckle up, because it's back on the menu, along with some other surprising additions. This time he's not just eyeing Greenland. He's got a whole buffet of territories he's interested in. Canada, Gaza, and the Panama Canal are all in his sights, making this potential land grab bigger than anything we've seen since the days of President Polk. It's like he's channeling his inner 19th century expansionist. Now, you might be thinking, John, is this for real? Is he serious? Is this just another one of his grandstanding moments, or is there a method to his madness? And the honest answer is, who knows with this guy? His unpredictability is his trademark, and it keeps everyone on their toes. But here's the thing, whether it's a genuine policy goal or just another one of his elaborate distractions, it's got everyone talking. The media, the politicians, the international community, they're all abuzz. And when Trump talks, the world listens, even if it's just to figure out what fresh hell he's about to unleash. His words have a way of rippling across the globe, causing reactions far and wide. So tonight, we're diving headfirst into the wild world of Trump's territorial ambitions, exploring his motivations, the international fallout, and what it all means for America's place in the world. Stay tuned as we unravel this complex and controversial chapter in modern geopolitics. To understand Trump's obsession with expanding America's borders, we need to take a trip back in time. This journey will take us to a period when the idea of American expansion was not just a policy, but a fervent belief. Specifically, to the mid-1800s, the era of manifest destiny and a president named James K. Polk. This was a time when the United States was driven by the belief that it was destined to expand across the North American continent. You see, Polk, much like Trump, had a bit of a land-grabbing habit. He was determined to grow the nation's territory, no matter the cost or the means. During his single term, he oversaw the annexation of Texas, a giant chunk of the Southwest from Mexico, and the Oregon Territory. These acquisitions were not just about land, they were about power, influence, and a vision of American greatness. Talk about a real estate mogul. Polk's aggressive expansionist policies reshaped the nation's borders and set a precedent for future leaders. Now, it's no coincidence that Trump has a portrait of Polk prominently displayed in the Oval Office. This choice of decor is a nod to a historical figure he admires and perhaps seeks to emulate. He sees himself as a kindred spirit, a strong man destined to make America great again, one land grab at a time. This self-image is deeply rooted in a historical narrative of power and expansion. And just like Polk, Trump seems to believe that might makes right, that international law and diplomacy are for suckers, and that any territory he desires is rightfully America's. This mindset is not just about policy, it's about a worldview that prioritizes strength over cooperation. It's a dangerous and outdated worldview, one that led to countless conflicts in the past, and, if we're not careful, could very well do so again. The lessons of history are clear. Unchecked expansionism often leads to strife and suffering. Let's start with the biggest prize of them all, Canada. Yes, you heard that right. The land of maple syrup, hockey, and universal healthcare is apparently next on Trump's list. Now, we don't know exactly what he has in mind. Annexation? A hostile takeover? Maybe he just wants to borrow their healthcare system? Whatever his plan, it's safe to say that our neighbors to the north are less than thrilled about the prospect of becoming the 51st state. Imagine waking up one morning to find out that your country is being eyed up by the United States like a plate of poutine at a buffet. It's enough to make you want to build a wall, and this time, it wouldn't be the Canadians paying for it. Of course, the idea of the US invading Canada is ludicrous, right? Well, tell that to the Pentagon, which has reportedly been ordered by the White House to draw up plans for just such a scenario. Next up, we have Greenland, the world's largest island, a vast icy expanse that has captured imaginations for centuries, and a place Trump seems inexplicably fixated on, almost as if it's a personal mission of his. Remember back in 2019 when he tried to buy it from Denmark? The world was taken aback by the audacity of the proposal. Well, much like a bad penny, his Greenland obsession is back, and this time it's even more intense. This time, however, he's not even pretending to play nice. The stakes seem higher and the rhetoric more aggressive. "One way or another, we're going to get there," he was recently quoted as saying, a statement that has raised eyebrows globally. This bold declaration has sent chills down the spines of diplomats and international law experts everywhere, who are now scrambling to respond. Now you might be wondering why on earth Trump is so obsessed with this icy expanse. What could possibly be so enticing about Greenland? Well, according to some experts, it's all about the Arctic. The region holds untapped potential and strategic importance. With climate change melting the polar ice caps, new opportunities are emerging, new shipping routes and access to valuable resources are opening up, making the Arctic a hotbed of geopolitical interest. And Trump, ever the businessman, wants to get his hands on them. He sees Greenland as a key piece in this Arctic puzzle. Of course, there's just one tiny problem. Greenland isn't his to take. It belongs to Denmark, a sovereign nation with its own interests. And they've made it abundantly clear that it's not for sale, no matter how enticing the offer might be, no matter how many times Trump asks, the answer remains a firm and resounding no. The saga of Greenland's uncertain fate continues. Section 5 Sun and Sand Gaza Strip's resort makeover. Now, for a truly bizarre twist in this geopolitical thriller, let's talk about Gaza. Yes, that Gaza. The one with the ongoing humanitarian crisis and the constant threat of conflict. You might be thinking, John, you're having us on, right? Sadly, I'm not. According to recent reports, Trump has expressed interest in, wait for it, taking over Gaza and turning it into a luxury resort. I know, it's almost too absurd to believe. But then again, this is the same man who once suggested nuking hurricanes. Details on this alleged plan are scarce, but one can only imagine the chaos and outrage it would provoke. Can you picture it? Sunbathers sipping cocktails while Israeli and Palestinian negotiators try to hammer out a peace deal in the shade of a Trump tower. It's a recipe for disaster, even by Trumpian standards. Section 6. Canal capers Panama on high alert. Last but not least, we come to the Panama Canal, a vital waterway and a symbol of American engineering prowess. Now, the United States already had its turn running the canal, but that was way back in 1999. Fast forward to today, and Trump, never one to let go of a grudge, is reportedly unhappy with the current arrangement, which sees the canal managed by a Panamanian government authority. Rumors are swirling that Trump, unhappy with a recent deal involving a Chinese company, has ordered the Pentagon to explore options for increasing the U.S. military presence in Panama. Now, whether this means sending in a few extra troops or launching a full-blown invasion remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, the Panamanians aren't going to take this lying down. Protests have already erupted in Panama City, and the situation is only likely to escalate if Trump continues to rattle his saber. Section 7 Global Backlash, a world united against Trump. So there you have it, folks. Trump's greatest hits world tour, complete with territorial ambitions, international incidents, and more than a few raised eyebrows. But here's the thing about throwing your weight around on the world stage, people tend to push back. And pushback they have. From Ottawa to Copenhagen to Gaza City, Trump's pronouncements have been met with a mixture of disbelief, anger, and a healthy dose of ridicule. World leaders have condemned his actions, diplomats are scrambling for their rule books, and late-night talk show hosts are having a field day. Even the United Nations, an organization not exactly known for its swift and decisive action, has issued a sternly worded statement expressing its deep concern. But perhaps the most telling reaction has been the surge in nationalism and anti-American sentiment in the targeted countries. Section 8, Domestic Discord, No Invading Allies Act and Beyond. Now you might think that back home in the good old US of A, Trump's territorial ambitions would be met with cheers and applause. After all, this is the guy who promised to make America great again, and what could be more American than expanding its borders? Well, it turns out that even in Trump's America, there are limits to what people are willing to tolerate. The outrage has been bipartisan, with Democrats and even some Republicans expressing alarm at Trump's reckless rhetoric. In a rare display of unity, the House of Representatives recently passed a bill aptly titled the No Invading Allies Act, which would prohibit the use of federal funds for any military action against Canada, Greenland, or Panama. While the bill is unlikely to become law, it's a clear sign that even Trump's own party is growing weary of his antics. Section 9, Conclusion, a Legacy of Discord and Uncertainty. So, where do we go from here? Honestly, folks, your guess is as good as mine. With Trump back at the helm, the world has become a more unpredictable and, dare I say, more dangerous place. His territorial ambitions, whether driven by genuine belief or simply a desire to distract and deflect, have real-world consequences. They undermine international norms, strain alliances, and erode America's standing in the world. But perhaps the most worrying aspect of all is the uncertainty. We simply don't know what Trump will do next. Will he follow through on his threats? Will he back down in the face of international pressure? Or will he simply move on to the next outrage, leaving a trail of diplomatic wreckage in his wake? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure. We're living in interesting times, folks. Very interesting times indeed. And that, as the old Chinese curse goes, is not necessarily a good thing.